You know, online learning is incredible, right? It's opened up education for millions. But it's got this one huge nagging problem. So today, we're going to dig into some research from the Open University that asks a big question. Could AI be the answer?
All right, look at this, 78%. Any guesses what that number means for online education? I'll give you a hint. It's not a good thing. It's not a pass rate. Nope, it's pretty much the exact opposite.
Yep, that's the failure to complete rate for some of those massive open online courses. MOOCs. Can you believe that? A whopping 78% of people who sign up just never finish. This is the massive dropout crisis that e-learning has been fighting for years.
Okay, so let's break down this challenge. Researchers really wanted to get to the bottom of this. What's causing this massive dropout rate? And, more importantly, can we stop it? It turns out the heart of the problem is this huge difference between learning in a real classroom versus online.
Think about it. In a regular classroom, a teacher can just look around the room. They can see the visual cues, right? A raised hand, a confused look, that little aha moment when something clicks. But online, an instructor just sees a list of names. It's so hard to tell who's actually engaged and, crucially, who's silently struggling and falling behind before it's too late.
But what if? What if there was another way to see the students? This was the big idea the researchers had. They figured that every single thing a student does online, every click, every post, leaves behind a little trace, like a digital breadcrumb. And if you follow that trail of breadcrumbs, well, it starts to tell a story.
So all this activity happens inside something called a virtual learning environment, or VLE for short. The easiest way to think about it is like a digital campus. It's the website where students get all their course materials, jump into discussion forums, hand in their work, everything. And it's also kind of the scene of the crime where you can spot that disengagement happening.
Okay, so the researchers basically tracked everything a student did inside this digital campus. I'm talking passive stuff, like just visiting the homepage or opening a PDF, and also the more active things, like actually posting in a discussion forum. Every single one of those clicks became a piece of the puzzle, a clue that helped build this really detailed picture of how engaged each student was.
All right, so here's where it gets really interesting. They've got all this data, right? So the team got to work training a machine learning model. The big goal here was to teach an AI to analyze all these click patterns and then predict super early on which students were starting to show those warning signs of low engagement.
They put a few different AI models to the test. And look, they all did pretty well, getting over 80% accuracy. But here's the thing. Accuracy wasn't actually the most important number to look at. See, to really crack this problem, what they really needed to know was how good the AI was at finding the students who were genuinely at risk of dropping out. And that brings us to this key metric right here, recall. Okay, so what is recall? Basically, it measures how good the model is at catching all the students who truly have low engagement. You want this number to be sky high, because you don't want anyone who needs help to slip through the cracks. And as you can see, the J48 model just blows the others away. A recall score of almost 95%, that's huge. It means it successfully flagged nearly every single student who is struggling in silence. For an instructor, that's a game changer.
Okay, so this is amazing, right? We have an AI that works, but that just leads to the next big question. What is this thing actually looking at? Out of all those digital breadcrumbs, which ones are the real smoking guns? The ones that best predict whether a student is going to succeed or fail?
While the AI zeroed in on 4 key behaviors. First, how many times a student just visited the course homepage. Second, how active they were in the discussion forums. Third, how often they were clicking on and interacting with the actual course content. And finally, how they were navigating around the site's subpages. It turns out, these 4 signals were the absolute strongest predictors of a student's engagement level.
So, where do we go from here? I mean, having a predictive model is great, but it's not much good if it just stays in a research lab, right? The whole point, the ultimate goal, was to turn all this data into a practical tool, something an instructor could actually use to make a real difference for their students. And here's the payoff. The system can flag at-risk students pretty much in real time. This means an instructor can step in and offer support, maybe just a quick email checking in, asking if they're stuck on something. Weeks, not days before the final exam. It completely flips the script, moving from being reactive to being proactive.
And this really brings us to the big picture. This whole thing isn't about replacing teachers with AI. Not at all. It's about giving those online instructors the same kind of superpowers, that intuition,
that they have in a physical classroom. It's about using technology to make e-learning feel smarter and, believe it or not, a whole lot more human.
And hey, the research totally backs this up. The study found a clear, direct link. The students the AI flagged as highly engaged, they consistently got better grades on their assignments and exams. So yeah, those digital breadcrumbs, they absolutely lead to real-world results.
To put it simply, the digital trail doesn't lie. The AI got it right. It was successfully pinpointing the exact behaviors that lead to student success, and that gives instructors a golden opportunity to step in and encourage those behaviors.
So this technology has some serious potential to solve one of e-learning's biggest headaches, for sure. But it also leaves us with a really important question as we move forward. How do we use this power for good? How do we build systems that support students, that make them feel seen and helped without making them feel like they're being watched 24/7? Nailing that balance, that's going to be the real key to the future of education.